The stars above the Valari-conquered homeworld glowed with quiet peace, but that peace was only an illusion. The outer colonies burned. From one end of the frontier to the other, the Drexen swarm spread like a living fire. Their ships did not speak, did not reason, did not accept treaties. They only advanced, consuming and destroying until nothing remained. On the council station orbiting Valara Prime, the leaders of the Concord gathered in the great chamber of crystal and light. Their voices trembled as they argued, but all of them carried the same fear. The conquered had no strength left to resist. "We have lost 3 colonies this cycle," whispered Counselor Marin, his scaled fingers trembling against the table. "Entire cities. Gone, families, erased. Our fleets are shattered. If this continues, the swarm will reach Valara Prime in less than a standard year." Counselor Yalith, tall and feathered, raised her wings in despair. "We called for help already. The Kalori Union refused. The Thrix Collective has locked its borders. None will come. We stand alone." A heavy silence filled the chamber. Everyone knew the truth. Their people were dying, and no ally would risk angering the Drexen. At last, the oldest among them, High Speaker Thalin, lifted his eyes. His voice was tired but calm. "Then we must send the signal. We must beg the galaxy itself." Several counselors turned in shock. "The old distress beacon? That is forbidden. It may reach anyone." "Anyone is better than no one," Thalin said. "If we wait, we perish. If we act, perhaps there is hope." The chamber fell silent again. Then, one by one, the counselors lowered their heads in grim agreement. Deep in the heart of Valara Prime's communications tower, technicians activated a device that had not been touched in centuries. A vast dish of crystal unfolded into the night sky, glowing with ancient power. A message coded in the simplest patterns of mathematics and emotion was prepared. The words were few but desperate. "This is the Valari Concord. We are under attack. Our worlds fall. Please, any who hear this, we beg your aid." The beacon fired. A pulse of energy raced across the void, leaping from star to star, faster than light itself. The Valari prayed it would find a savior before the swarm reached their heart. Far away, in a quiet corner of the Milky Way, a very different world turned under the light of its sun. Earth, humanity, scarred by its own long history of wars and survival, had only recently stepped into the greater galaxy. Their ships roamed nearby systems, their colonies grew cautiously, but compared to ancient civilizations, they were still young. Most species avoided them, whispering the same word in their records: Deathworlders. To live on Earth was to endure storms, quakes, predators, disease, and endless conflict. Humans were forged in a world that tried to kill them daily. To alien scholars, humanity was unpredictable, dangerous, and best left alone. But fate had other plans. On an orbital station high above Earth, a group of technicians monitored the endless flow of signals from deep space. Most were natural noise, the hum of stars and pulsars. Some were old human probes still whispering their data. But on that night, one technician named Elena Ruiz noticed something strange. "Wait," she said, adjusting her headset. "I've got something." Her partner, Kenji Tanaka, leaned closer. "Another pulsar?" "No, this is structured, repeating. And, listen, it's universal code. Pure math, prime numbers." Someone wanted anyone to understand. The room grew tense. They had trained for this, dreamed of this. The possibility of alien contact had always been real, but now, here it was. Elena's voice dropped to a whisper as the translation program worked. Slowly, the message appeared on the screen. "This is the Valari Conquered. We are under attack. Our worlds fall. Please, any who hear this, we beg your aid." The technicians exchanged a look. This was not a greeting. It was a cry for survival. Within hours, the signal was relayed across Earth's networks. Leaders met in emergency councils. Scientists confirmed it was real, undeniably alien, undeniably intelligent. And the message was clear: someone far away was dying. In the halls of the United Earth Council, the debate began. "They are strangers," said Minister Clark. "We owe them nothing. We don't even know where their worlds are. We cannot risk our people in another species war." "They ask for help," argued Admiral Osi. "If these Drexen destroy them, what stops them from coming here next? If we wait, it may be too late when they find us." The chamber erupted with voices, fear, caution, hope, and anger all mixing together. Some wanted to ignore the plea, to stay hidden from galactic wars. Others argued that humanity's destiny was to stand among the stars, and this was their chance. At last, the High Counselor spoke. Our history is filled with struggle. Again and again, humanity survived not by hiding, but by standing together. We know what it is to face extinction. We cannot turn away from those who suffer it now. Silence fell. One by one, heads nodded. The decision was made. Humanity would answer. Across the solar system, orders spread like fire. Shipyards lit up, constructing warships faster than ever before. Old vessels were pulled from reserve and refitted with new weapons. Soldiers were recalled. Pilots were trained. The project was given a name. Operation Iron Resolve. It was not just a rescue. It was a declaration. Humanity would not sit idle while another civilization was consumed. If the Volari called for help, then Earth would come. Some whispered fearfully about the aliens' warnings, that humanity was reckless, unpredictable, too violent for peace. But others whispered something else. Perhaps it was exactly those traits that made humanity the only ones willing to answer. Meanwhile, in the Volari conquered, days passed. Their distress beacon had gone silent and no answer had returned. Despair deepened. On the frontier world of Saren, families boarded evacuation ships abandoning their homes. The Drexen swarm loomed ever closer, their dark fleets already visible through telescopes. Counselors argued about retreat strategies, but none believed they could hold much longer. In the quiet of night, High Speaker Thalen sat alone in his chamber. His people were ancient, proud, and wise, yet now he felt only the crushing weight of failure. No one will come, he whispered. We are forgotten. But even as he spoke, far beyond the horizon of his understanding, something was moving through the void. A fleet of ships built by Deathworlders, engines roaring, weapons armed, their banners marked with the blue and green of Earth. The Volari did not yet know it, but their signal had not vanished into silence. It had reached the one species in the galaxy that would never ignore a cry for help. The Deathworlders had heard, and they were coming. The signal from the Volari Concord spread across Earth like wildfire. Every news station, every communication line, every feed displayed the strange, desperate message. This is the Volari Concord. We are under attack. Our worlds fall. Please, any who hear this, we beg your aid. For days, people everywhere talked of nothing else. In city streets and remote villages, in schools and factories, on the colonies of Mars and Europa, the same questions echoed. Who are they? Where are they? Can we help? Should we help? The excitement was mixed with fear. For centuries, humanity had dreamed of life beyond the stars, but most imagined greetings, not warnings of war. And now, the galaxy had spoken not with friendship, but with a cry for survival. Inside the United Earth Council chamber, the highest leaders of humanity met in urgent session. The Great Hall was filled with screens showing data, the Volari message, astronomical maps, intercepted energy traces, and projections of possible alien fleets. Counselor Miriam Clark, a woman known for her sharp caution, stood first. We must think carefully, she said firmly. We do not know these Volari. They might be telling the truth, or they might be drawing us into a conflict that is none of our business. Our people are still rebuilding from the last century's wars. Do we dare risk them for strangers? Her words carried weight. Many nodded. Humanity had suffered much already, but Admiral Kwame Ose, head of the Earth Defense Fleet, rose next. His uniform was decorated with honors, and his voice carried steady power. We may not know these Volari, he said, but we do know what it means to face destruction. If their enemies consume them, those enemies will only grow stronger. One day they may come for us. Shall we wait until they are knocking at Earth's door? Or shall we meet them now when we still have a choice? Murmurs filled the chamber. Counselor Nguyen, younger and full of energy, spoke passionately. History will judge us. The galaxy has ignored their cries. Others turned away. Do we want to be remembered as cowards who stayed silent while whole worlds burned? The room broke into debate. Voices clashed. Fear against courage, caution against duty. Some argued that humanity was still too weak, too untested among the stars. Others countered that humanity had always been tested, and always found strength in the fire. Finally, the High Counselor, Elena Voss, stood. She raised her hand and silence fell. Her face was calm, but her eyes were fierce. Long ago, our ancestors looked to the stars and dreamed of finding others. We hoped for peace, for knowledge, for friendship. But the universe is not what we imagined. We have found war waiting instead. Do we turn away pretending we did not hear? Or do we act knowing we may pay a heavy price? I say this, we are human. We do not hide when others cry for help. We do not wait for threats to grow before we strike. We answer, always. The chamber erupted, not with argument, but with applause. The decision was made. Humanity would go to war. The orders spread quickly. Across the solar system, shipyards came alive. Great engines thundered as starships were built, tested, and armed. Workers labored day and night, welding steel, wiring reactors, programming navigation cores. On the moon, massive hangars opened to reveal new carriers. On Mars, dry docks launched sleek destroyers. On Earth itself, factories worked without rest, producing the weapons and supplies that would feed the Armada. The operation had a name now, Iron Resolve. It was more than a fleet. It was a promise. In the training grounds of Earth defense, soldiers prepared for the unknown. Sergeant Hayes, a veteran with scars from past wars, addressed his unit. "You've all heard the news," he said, pacing before them. "Aliens are dying out there. They called for help, and we are the ones answering. Some of you are scared, good. Fear keeps you sharp. But remember this, humanity has faced worse than anyone thought we could survive. We will not fail. We will not run. We are Deathworlders, and that means we endure." The soldiers shouted their agreement, voices echoing through the halls. They were young, old, men, women, humanity's sons and daughters united under one banner. Far from the training grounds, scientists and strategists gathered. Maps of the stars glowed across massive displays. The Valari message carried coordinates, faint signals of where their worlds lay. Though distant, the path was clear. Dr. Leon Joe, head of the Astrophysics Division, pointed at the charts. The Drexen swarm moves like a tide. They devour everything, leaving nothing behind. If we intercept them here, she tapped a glowing frontier star, we may hold the line. If not, they will spill into Valari Prime and then deeper still. General Ramirez nodded grimly. Then that is where we will strike. The room filled with plans, strategies, predictions. The unknown was vast, but humanity would face it head on. News of the mission reached the people, and with it came mixed emotions. Some cheered, proud that Earth would not stand idle. Others worried for their children, fearing the price of such courage. In a small home in Buenos Aires, a mother held her son tightly. He had volunteered to join the fleet. "Why must it be you?" she whispered. "Because someone has to go," he said softly. "If the Valari fall today, maybe we fall tomorrow. I would rather fight now while I can." Her tears fell, but she nodded. She understood. Humanity had always fought not just for survival, but for hope. Weeks passed. The Armada grew. Flagship Resolute Dawn led the formation, a massive carrier bristling with weapons and carrying thousands of crew. Around her, cruisers, destroyers, and support ships formed the heart of the fleet. Smaller vessels patrolled, while transport ships carried supplies and reinforcements. In total, hundreds of ships prepared to leave the safety of Sol. At last, the day came. On Earth, billions watched the launch. Families gathered around screens, children waved flags, elders whispered prayers. In orbit, Admiral Osei stood on the command deck of Resolute Dawn. He gazed out at the countless ships arrayed before him. The stars glittered, silent witnesses to this moment. "Open channel," he ordered. A chime sounded. Across every ship, every crew member heard his voice. "Men and women of Earth, today we write a new chapter of our history. We go not for conquest, but for duty. We go because someone called and no one else answered. We go because we are human, and to be human is to fight for more than ourselves. Remember this. Whatever awaits us in the dark, we will not break. We are Iron Resolve, and we will endure." The fleet roared with cheers. Engines lit, blazing blue fire against the void. And then, with a surge of power, the Deathworlder Armada leapt into the stars. Meanwhile, far away in the Valari Concord, despair deepened. Weeks had passed since the signal was sent and no one had come. Entire colonies fell silent. Refugees crowded into ships fleeing from the unstoppable Drexen. High Speaker Thalen sat with the council. His voice was heavy with sorrow. "We placed our hope in the stars, but the stars remained silent. Perhaps we were fools. But at that very moment, across light years of emptiness, something moved closer. The humans had made their decision. And soon, the Valari would learn what it meant when Deathworlders answered a call for help. The Valari Concord had grown tired of waiting. Weeks had turned into months since their desperate signal had been sent across the stars, and no answer had come. High Speaker Thalen stood before the council in the great chamber of crystal. His old eyes reflected the light of the hall, but they carried only sadness. "We are alone," he said quietly. "The galaxy has turned its back on us. The Drexen advance without pause. Another colony falls this cycle. If Valara Prime must prepare for evacuation, then let us begin." The chamber filled with voices of despair. Some argued for retreat, some for surrender, others for final resistance. But none spoke of hope. Hope had withered. Then, in the middle of the debate, a voice broke through the chamber comms. A technician, out of breath, rushed into the hall. "High Speaker, we are receiving ships. Unknown signatures. They are not Drexen." The chamber froze. "Not Drexen?" Thalen asked, his voice sharp for the first time in months. "No, Speaker. A fleet, hundreds of vessels. They approach our borders. Their technology is strange, crude by some measures, but powerful." Whispers spread like fire. Could it be the Kalori Union at last, or the Thrix Collective, or someone new entirely? Thalen's feathers trembled as he asked the question all feared. Are they here as saviors, or conquerors? Out beyond Valari space, the Deathworlder Armada emerged from faster-than-light travel. The fleet slowed, engines blazing, and spread into formation. On the bridge of the flagship Resolute Dawn, Admiral Ose stood tall, his dark eyes fixed on the starlit view ahead. A shimmering nebula painted the void, and beyond it faint signals of Valari settlements flickered. "Transmit message," Ose commanded. The comm officer nodded and sent the signal. Across the void, a message carried in simple code. "We are humans of Earth. We have received your call. We come to aid you against the Drexen swarm." Inside the Valari Council chamber, the message arrived. Translated by their machines, the words appeared across every screen. "Humans?" Counselor Marin whispered. His scales shifted nervously. "I have heard of them. A Deathworld species. Dangerous, unpredictable." Counselor Yalith shook her feathered crest. "I studied them once. Their world is one of storms and poisons, predators, and endless conflict. Many scholars warned us to keep away from them. They are violent by nature." The chamber filled with unease. To ask help from allies was one thing. To accept help from Deathworlders was another. Thalen raised his hand. "Silence." He stared at the message. They answered when no one else did. "Perhaps danger is exactly what we require." A meeting was arranged. On the frontier station of Ceres 4, chosen for its neutral ground, Valari officials gathered nervously. The station's crystal walls gleamed softly, but beneath the beauty lay tension. Guards stood ready, unsure of what these humans might do. Then the human ships arrived. The Resolute Dawn came into orbit, dwarfing the station. Its black steel hull glimmered with lights, its cannons visible, its sheer size a display of power. Around it, smaller human vessels moved in tight formation, disciplined, precise, ready for war. The Valari delegation watched through the station's windows, feathers and scales bristling. "Such brutality in design," Yalith whispered. "Their ships looked like weapons first, homes second." "And yet," Thalen murmured, "they come." The first human delegation entered the station. The Valari expected towering monsters, but instead they saw men and women, armored in disciplined uniforms, their faces stern but not cruel. Admiral Ose led them, his steps calm, his voice steady. "High Speaker Thalen, on behalf of Earth and her people, we greet you." The translator carried his words smoothly into Valari speech. Thalen rose, his feathered crest lifting in respect. "Admiral Ose, on behalf of the Valari conquered, we thank you. Though I must ask why? Why risk yourselves for us?" Ose met his gaze without hesitation. "Because you called. And because if the Drexen are not stopped here, they will reach us one day. We do not wait for danger to grow stronger. We face it where it rises." The hall fell into silence. Many Valari shifted uneasily at the directness of the human, yet there was strength in his words, strength they had not heard from anyone else. The talks began. The Valari explained the Drexen swarm, the endless fleets, the devouring of planets, the hopeless battles. They described how the conquered had lost colony after colony, their defenses breaking. The humans listened carefully. Strategists took notes, scientists recorded data, officers asked sharp questions. When the Valari finished, Admiral Osei leaned forward. "Your fleets fight like prey," he said bluntly. "You fall back, you scatter, you hope to survive. But the Drexen will never stop. To defeat them, you must strike like predators." The Valari counselors bristled. To be called prey was an insult. Yet deep inside, they knew it was true. Their tactics had been of defense, not victory. And defense had failed. Thalen tilted his head. "And you, Admiral? What would you do?" Osei's eyes burned with certainty. "We would strike first. We would bleed them until they learned fear." The Valari chamber grew cold. Fear against the Drexen? Such a thought had never been spoken. The humans offered more than words. They displayed their weapons, rail cannons, missile arrays, fighter wings armed with devastating payloads. Their ships, though rough by Valari standards of elegance, were built for resilience. Where Valari ships cracked under swarm assault, human hulls were layered, armored, designed to take punishment and keep fighting. More shocking still were the human strategies. General Ramirez presented simulations. In one, a small human fleet lured a Drexen force into a nebula, ambushed them at close range and destroyed them. In another, human ground troops turned a hopeless defense into a trap, surrounding the swarm and burning them down with sheer ferocity. Valari officers watched in disbelief. "Your tactics are reckless," one whispered. "No," Ramirez replied. "They are human." At first, mistrust lingered. Some Valari still feared betrayal. What if they conquer us after the Drexen fall? Marin whispered to Thalen. Thalen shook his head. "I have watched their eyes. These are not conquerors. They are something far more dangerous. They are allies who refuse to lose." Slowly, carefully, trust began to form. The first joint operation was planned. The Drexen were preparing to strike the frontier world of Saren. Valari scouts had detected their fleets approaching. The conquered had prepared to abandon the world, but the humans had other ideas. "We will hold it," Osei declared. "We will show the swarm that the tide has turned." Valari commanders hesitated. "Saren is already doomed. Its defenses are too weak." "Then we will make them strong," Osei said. "With your knowledge of the terrain and our weapons, we will give the Drexen their first true defeat." For the first time, hope flickered in Valari eyes. As the meeting ended, Thalen approached Osei privately. "Admiral," he said softly, "when we sent our call, we never dreamed humans would be the ones to answer. Many among us feared your kind. But now, perhaps it is fitting. Only Deathworlders would dare to face the swarm without fear." Osei gave a small smile. "Fear is not absent, High Speaker. We simply refuse to let it rule us." Thalen bowed his head. For the first time in months, his heart felt lighter. The Valari had found not just an ally, but something more, a force that turned despair into defiance. The Deathworlder Armada had arrived. The frontier world of Saren burned under the faint light of two suns. Its blue-green oceans churned and jagged mountains scarred its surface. Normally peaceful, the planet now trembled with the approach of destruction. From orbit, the dark shadows of the Drexen swarm fleet stretched across space like living storm clouds. Valari scouts had reported their arrival hours earlier. The conquered's fleets were scattered, worn, and terrified. Entire planetary defenses had been evacuated. The citizens of Saren had been told to flee, to hide, but there was little hope. And then, a new light appeared beyond the horizon. The Deathworlder Armada emerged from the void. Ships of every size and shape spread in formation, their engines burning like streaks of fire across the stars. From massive carriers to nimble fighters, every vessel gleamed with power and purpose. On the bridge of the flagship Resolute Dawn, Admiral Osei stood at the helm, eyes locked on the enemy. Around him, officers and pilots moved quickly, following orders with precision. "Engage," Osei commanded. The fleet surged forward. Energy weapons hummed. Missiles streaked toward enemy positions. The Deathworlders did not hesitate. Where the Valari had faltered in fear, the humans advanced with calculated aggression. The Drexen did not understand what faced them. They were used to devouring worlds with ease, overwhelming civilizations before resistance could form. But these humans, these Deathworlders, were different. Human destroyers swerved in unpredictable patterns, dodging Drexen fire while closing the distance. Fighters swooped between massive enemy ships, launching volleys of torpedoes at weak points. The sheer boldness of their assault shocked the swarm. One Drexen commander hissed through its translator, These are not prey, they are predators." And they were right. On the ground, Valari forces watched in awe. Their defenders had long trained for death against the swarm, but no amount of preparation had made them ready for humanity. Human soldiers descended in dropships, landing directly in contested zones. They fought shoulder to shoulder with Valari troops, but unlike the careful Valari maneuvers, humans moved like storms. They flanked, charged, and counterattacked with brutal speed. Sergeant Hayes led one unit, his squad cutting through Drexen patrols with precision. "Remember," he shouted, "fear is natural, but never let it stop you. Fight like humans. Fight to survive and win." The Valari beside him could barely keep up, yet they followed. Slowly, the tide of battle shifted. In orbit, the flagship Resolute Dawn unleashed its main cannons. Massive beams of concentrated energy cut through Drexen capital ships, ripping them apart with terrifying efficiency. Smaller vessels darted in and out of explosions, striking where the enemy least expected. Valari Admiral Korath, watching from a nearby cruiser, gasped. They are fearless. They throw themselves into danger and survive." Thalen's voice trembled as he added, "They do not fear death because they know how to make others fear it." The Drexen, creatures accustomed to easy victories, were stunned. Their formations fell apart. Ships collided or were destroyed in panic. What had once seemed unstoppable now hesitated, and hesitation in the swarm was fatal. Back on the planet's surface, Valari and human forces pressed forward together. Cities once abandoned now became fortresses. Humans rigged defensive positions with rapid efficiency. They mined choke points, set ambushes, and used terrain to their advantage. A Valari engineer watching the humans in action whispered to a comrade, "Their ways are terrifyingly effective. They think like hunters, not soldiers." And that was exactly what they were. Humanity had been forged on a planet that would kill them at every turn. Now that same survival instinct had been unleashed across the stars. The battle raged for hours. Drexen carriers unleashed swarms of drones, hoping to overwhelm the defenders. But human interceptors dove into the clouds of machines with daring maneuvers, taking out dozens in single passes. Missile batteries tore through the enemy's shielded hulls. Admiral Osei's voice cut through the comms. "Do not relent. Push them back. Remember, we do not run. We do not hide. We fight." And fight they did. Despite the humans' fearlessness, the battle was not without cost. Ships were destroyed. Fighters fell from the sky. Ground units suffered casualties. Each victory was bought with struggle and determination. Yet every time a human vessel was lost, another took its place. Every time a squad fell, another pressed forward. Humanity had become a machine of unrelenting will. Valari soldiers began to understand. These humans did not fight for glory or honor. They fought because they could not accept defeat. Their survival instinct was absolute, and their courage was contagious. Slowly, the Valari began to shed their fear, inspired by their allies. By nightfall, the battle reached its climax. The Drexen flagship, a monstrous black vessel larger than anything the Valari had ever seen, attempted to escape the planetary system. The human fleet closed in, cutting off its path. "Target the flagship," Osei commanded. "End this now." A coordinated strike followed. Missiles, rail beams, and concentrated energy tore into the Drexen command ship. The flagship shuddered, fires consuming its hull. Fighters swarmed its surface, disabling weapon systems. With one final human assault team, the ship was brought down. It exploded in a brilliant fireball visible from orbit to the ground below. A cheer erupted across the human fleet. Valari soldiers on Saren clapped their claws and wings, unable to contain their relief. For the first time in months, the Valari felt hope. High Speaker Thalen approached Admiral Osei aboard the orbital station after the battle. The station was filled with the smell of smoke and fuel, a reminder that victory had not been without sacrifice. "You have done what we believed impossible," Thalen said softly. "You turned hopelessness into triumph. You are unlike anything we imagined." Osei shook his head. "We did not do this alone. Your people fought alongside us. You shared knowledge, terrain, and bravery. We only gave the force to act." Thalen smiled faintly, feathers still trembling. "The galaxy may call you reckless, unpredictable, even dangerous, but today you saved us, and that is a power none can deny." OC's gaze drifted to the stars. This is only the beginning. The Drexen will not forget, but neither will we. On the ground, humans and Valari worked side by side to aid survivors and rebuild defenses. Children who had fled into the mountains returned to see their cities still standing. Families wept in relief. Sergeant Hayes addressed his unit, now quiet after the battle. You saw what happens when we do not give up. When humans fight, we do not stop. We endure. Remember this. Remember how to survive. Remember how to make others fear failure as much as we do. The Valari beside him nodded, eyes wide. Your courage. It spreads like fire, one said softly, and it was true. Humanity's bravery had ignited a spark. As the sun set over Saren, the battlefield quieted. Fires burned, but the storm had passed. The Drexen had retreated, their losses devastating. For the first time, the Valari felt something they had not felt in years. Possibility. In orbit, Admiral Osei looked out across the calm, dotted with human and Valari ships. The cost had been high, but the message was clear. Humanity was not a species to be ignored. The galaxy had a new power to consider. One that answered cries for help with action. One that fought without fear. One that refused to lose. The Valari whispered the same thought among themselves. They are Deathworlders, Thalen said. And now we know why the galaxy fears them. The humans had shown the true meaning of resilience. And the Deathworlder Armada had just begun. The battlefield of Saren was quiet at last. Smoke rose from the cities that had survived, and fires burned in distant valleys, reminders of the horrors that had passed. Yet the planet felt alive in a way it had not for months. The Drexen swarm had retreated, defeated by the combined strength of Valari courage and human ferocity. For the Valari Concord, it was a moment of astonishment. High Speaker Thalen moved through the recovered city of SciFi-Prime, observing the efforts to rebuild. Humans and Valari worked side by side, repairing structures, distributing supplies, and tending to the injured. Thalen paused to watch a small human squad lifting debris from a collapsed building. They are remarkable, he whispered to Counselor Yalith. Their strength is not only in weapons, but in their will. They do not tire, they do not surrender. It is as if nothing can stop them. Yalith nodded slowly. They fight not for glory, but because they must, and that makes them unstoppable. Admiral Osei observed the same scene from orbit aboard Resolute Dawn. He had watched his fleet coordinate rescues, defend cities, and teach the Valari how to organize rapid counterattacks. For his part, the humans had been both instructors and warriors, showing the Valari that courage and action could turn despair into hope. A young pilot, Lieutenant Harper, approached him. Sir, the Valari are calling us heroes, but they look at us with fear and respect, almost like we are something beyond their imagination. Osei's lips curved into a small smile. They should. Humanity does not simply win battles. We survive them, we endure, and sometimes endurance itself becomes legend. Across the planet, stories began to spread among the Valari population. Children who had fled Saren during the Drexen attacks returned to see humans in action. Farmers, engineers, and scholars alike spoke of humans who charged into impossible odds, who saved towns while facing death directly, who led ambushes that shattered the Drexen lines. The legend of the Deathworlder Armada began to grow. At the Valari Council chambers, the mood had changed entirely. Where once there was despair, there was now determination. Thalen addressed the assembly. Today our worlds are safe not because of hope alone, but because of action. The humans risked themselves for us, for a species they had never met. That courage is not to be underestimated. They have shown us that even against forces like the Drexen, victory is possible when one refuses to yield. Counselor Marin, who had once doubted the humans, nodded in agreement. Their methods? Their boldness. It is terrifying, but it is also brilliant. They see possibilities where we see only doom. The Conquered had learned a powerful lesson. The universe did not reward caution alone. Sometimes survival required action, and the humans embodied that truth. Meanwhile, across distant stars, the Drexen swarm began to regroup. Reports of their flagship's destruction spread through their hive networks. Unlike the Valari, they did not marvel at human courage, they feared it. Deathworlders, hissed a Drexen commander, its eyes narrowing. They are not like the others. They do not retreat. They do not surrender, they destroy everything in their path. The swarm recalculated their plans. For the first time, they faced a species that did not submit to their terror. a species they could not easily overcome. The galaxy was learning a new name: Earth, humanity, Deathworlders. Back on Saryn, the alliance between humans and Valari strengthened. Joint operations centers were established, where Valari officers and human strategists shared knowledge. Ships were repaired and upgraded. Soldiers trained together, combining Valari technology with human tactics. Sergeant Hayes walked among the ranks of Valari troops, who had now adopted some human training methods. "Remember this," he said. "Courage is contagious. Action inspires action. Do not wait for the enemy to strike first. Strike first, strike hard, and never give up." A young Valari lieutenant smiled at him. "It is exhilarating. We have never felt this confidence before." "Good," Hayes replied with a grin. "Confidence wins battles. Fear loses them. You will see the difference." Human leaders also reflected on the scale of their impact. On Earth, news networks broadcast updates from Saryn. People watched their soldiers in action, their diplomats negotiating, and their fleet defending worlds across light years. Families cheered. Children dreamed. Scholars wrote reports. Politicians debated future missions, but all agreed on one point. Humanity had stepped onto the galactic stage, and they had done so with force, courage, and compassion. President Arya Solis addressed the public. "Citizens of Earth, today we have proven something remarkable. We have answered a call not for glory but for survival. We have fought alongside new allies and shown the galaxy that humanity does not hide from danger. We endure. We persevere, we rise. And wherever a call for help reaches us, we will answer." Applause erupted across continents. And in space, the Deathworlder Armada continued its mission, undeterred and ready for whatever challenges lay ahead. In the Valari Concord, a ceremony was held to honor the humans. Thalen presented Admiral Osei with a ceremonial crystal, a symbol of gratitude and respect. "You have done more than save our colonies," Thalen said. "You have shown our people a new path. We are in your debt. And we hope that one day, humanity will continue to shine in the galaxy, not as conquerors but as guardians of those in need." Osei accepted the gift, nodding solemnly. "We do not fight for debt. We fight because we must. But we are proud to stand beside your people, High Speaker. Together, we will make sure no one can take your worlds without consequence." As news spread through the galaxy, the reputation of humans grew quickly. Traders, explorers, and other alien civilizations whispered stories of the Deathworlder Armada. Tales of their fearlessness, ingenuity, and sheer willpower traveled faster than any signal. "The Deathworlders are unstoppable," one alien merchant whispered to another. "They answered a call we ignored. They fought when others fled. Their courage is legendary," and it was true. The humans had not only saved the Valari, they had changed how the galaxy viewed them. No longer unknown, no longer underestimated, humanity had become a force to be respected, feared, and admired. Back on Saryn, humans and Valari rebuilt. Together they planned future defenses, knowing the Drexen would return. But now they did so with confidence, knowing they had allies, knowledge, and a reputation that could turn fear into advantage. Thalen stood with Admiral Osei, gazing at the horizon where stars met the planet's surface. "You have given us hope," Thalen said quietly, "not just for survival but for the future." Osei smiled faintly. "We fight for the present, but when we endure, hope follows naturally." The two leaders shared a moment of mutual respect. For the first time in centuries, the Valari felt certain of one truth. Humanity, the Deathworlders, were unstoppable when they chose to act. And across the galaxy, whispers grew louder. A new power had arisen, one that answered the cries of the helpless, that faced impossible odds, and that refused to yield. The legend of the Deathworlder Armada had begun, and the universe would never be the same.